the genesis of stotras? As we know, all of the things in Indian knowledge systems or in our culture, their roots are there in the Vedas. So if we consider the Vedas, the Rig Veda and the Samaveda are primarily stotras, that is hymns praising the different gods, including the Parabrahman. There is both Saguna and Nirguna. So stotra refers to any praise. But here, especially, we are not simply praising someone unnaturally or it's very organic, right? So usually when we praise in our transactional word, we will attribute some things which are not really corresponding to that person. But when we talk of stotras or Veda mantras, they are actually telling the Swarupa of the Devata. Okay, we might not be able to understand that language very easily because the roots of understanding or the very base of understanding the effects of mantras goes back to yogic philosophy and yogic system, and it is more experiential. Today, with lot of pollution, especially I'm not talking of the environmental pollution, the physical environmental pollution, but the mental environmental pollution has led us not to understand or sort of resonate with those frequencies. So there have been lot of efforts to propagate the spirit of the Vedas, starting from great rishis, including Vedavyasa. But however, due to the degradation in the intellectual and the experiential level of we people in this Kali Yuga, various acharyas have written stotras. Probably the word written would be a misnomer or composed would be a misnomer. So as Shankarāchārya states in one of his stotras, which is known as Subrahmaṇya Bhujangam. So in the second verse, he says, न जानामि पद्यं न जानामि गद्यं न जानामि शब्दं न जानामि चार्थं चिदेका षडास्य हृदि द्योतते मे मुखान्निस्सरन्ते गिरश्चापि चित्रम्. So this verse says that I don't know padya. That is, I don't know the essence of a padya, or I don't know to make a padya verse. Okay, so I should be probably better enough to make a gadya, okay, which is more of a free form. So he says, I too don't know how to make a gadya even. Forget gadya, I too don't know what shabda is, what artha is. So remember, this is what Shankarāchārya is telling. So of course, he was a great jnani, but when he has written this stotras, he has put himself in the shoes of a bhakta, a simple bhakta, like us, having all the worldly desires, but at the same time having some amount of bhakti, devotion to God. So after saying all these things, the second charana says, Chideka Shadasya Hridi Dyotate me. So Chideka, that one undifferentiated consciousness, which is Chit, which as all of us know, it is one of the properties of Brahman, the Almighty. So Chideka Shadasya, so that one undifferentiated Brahman becomes six. It gets six faces. So those are the six faces of Subrahmaṇya Swami, or who is well known as Kartikeya. So Chideka Shadasya Hridi Dyotate me. So when that consciousness in the form of six faces, when it glows in my heart, what happens? Mukhannisarante giraschapi chitram. Mukhannisarante giraschapi chitram. So simply, spontaneously, without any planning or without any previous decision, right? So mukhannisarante, they just flow out of my mouth. giraschapi chitram, and this is really astonishing. So again, chitram is something which you call as vichitram, or which is really astonishing to us. So again, you can see that that word chitram is made up of chit and ram. Okay, so there is an agni bija ram, which has an element of fire, and chit is also there. So what is the essence of what is Shankarācārya trying to tell us through this shloka? So as I was talking about the pollution, mental pollution that we have been experiencing these days, rishis and jñānis have tried to help us in terms of various sadhanas. Okay, one is namajapa, simple namajapa. But if you consider simple namajapa, let us say Namah Shivaya, or it could be just Rama, 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 Rama. Okay, so if we start doing this, probably not more than 1 minute or 2 minutes, will be mechanically doing it without mindfulness, right? So basically, it's our weakness, and we need something to hook on. We need a sort of a thought or a picture, or more. It should have some sort of what people call masala, okay, but a divine masala. So simple namajapa is also not so easy. Nama Sankirtanam Kalu. It is said that in Kali Yuga, it is the Nama Sankirtana that will uplift you. You need not do elaborate yajnas, because it also requires both material as well as intellectual richness. Okay, you need a lot of materials. You also need to know lot many shastras to understand how to exactly do it. So it's beyond our reach. So Namajapa is also not so easy. So then we need something where we can hook on to easily. Of course, even in Namajapa, when the Namajapa is prescribed in the proper way, there will be a dhyana shloka, which will describe the Devata Murti. It could be just for example, Shankarāchārya'Sstotra Literatureand, as you see in Viṣṇu Sahasranama Stotram, where you have something to ponder over. But still, again, we need more masala, right? So it's just one murti, and there are no other things or other notions or concepts on which our mind can hook on. So in the stotras that we see a flow of ideas in a very particular way. Okay, so there are prayers for material benefits, and that is sakama, and without any material desires, that is nishkama also. So you can see something like Nirguna Manasa Puja, or maybe Kaupina Pañcakam, or many other stotras, including Dakshinamurti Stotra, where you don't have any desires, but you are trying to ponder over certain Vedantic concepts. You are trying to ruminate. So that is the subject of a class of stotras written by Shankarācārya. Then there are other stotras, as Shankarācārya is Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam, and also a Karunanidhi. He knew the weaknesses of men, and so he, in a way to cater to all type of people with different mental dispositions, with different tastes, he has certain variety of stotras on different devatas, ranging from very simple to understand and ponder over to the most complicated ones. So simple ones to understand are like Bhajagovindam, or maybe Achyutashtakam, or maybe Bhavani Ashtakam, or even maybe Subrahmaṇya Bhujangam, and the most complicated ones probably Saundarya Lahari, and even the Viṣṇu Padādi-Keśānta, Viṣṇu Padādi-Keśānta stuti, and many others. So in the Dharma Shastras, we talk of namaskāra. So the yoga philosophy talks about namaskara as namastvaikhyam pravadet. Namastu aikyam pravadet. So what is namaskara? Namaskara is the act of becoming one with God. And there are different types of namaskaras, starting from vācika, that is vocal. Then you have manasika, that is mental, and then the kayika, which is done through the body. So out of this, the madhyama namaskara is said to be vocal or vācika namaskara. And the stotras come as a madhyama form of namaskara within vācika namaskara. So within vācika namaskara or vocal obeisance, you have the best to be those namaskaras or those hymns which come spontaneously, just like it came to rishis or jñānis. Of course, we are not jñānis. So what is the second level? What is the madhyama namaskara within this vācika namaskara? It is just repeating those stotras. It could be from Purana or Vedas or maybe even other jñānis. It could be also from our vernaculars, just like Hanuman Chalisa or Dasarapada in Kannada or maybe Tiruvai in Tamil. So it is a madhyama namaskara within vācika namaskara. And the third, which is adhama namaskara, is trying to use our own worldly language to make a prayer. Now the question comes, why should our own words be termed as an adhama namaskara? So this question leads us to understand the deeper insights behind composition of a stotra literature. As I have told you, with the example of Shankarāchārya'S Subrahmaṇya Bhujangam, these words that come out of jñānis, they are not pre-planned. So Shankarāchārya did not plan that tomorrow, after my Anhika, I will compose a verse in Bhujanga Prayata meter on Subrahmaṇya and I will use these things, these words. Okay? Or this could be the theme of the stotra that I am going to compose tomorrow. This is not the way it came. It came naturally, without any human effort. So, in all of our culture, including the rituals that we do, it could be using the ghanta, or it could be lighting a deep or a diya. What jñānis have done is, whatever they have seen in their yogic samadhi states, different yogic states, including the samadhi, the nirvikalpa samadhi, they have put those items in front of us as maybe stotras or as maybe rituals. So, coming back to our question is, why should our own words be not considered as a better form of namaskara? Why should it be termed as adhama namaskara? So, according to us, whenever I talk about a word, okay, in vernaculars or maybe even in Sanskrit, most of the times, especially in Sanskrit, there is an exception, but let us take other languages apart from Sanskrit. So, most of the times, if I ask why this is called hand, there is no reason. There is no scientific reason. There is no logic behind it. Of course, in our Sanskrit, transactional Sanskrit, we have a methodological way of deriving words. That is one part of it. But more than that, there is an important notion known as Shabdartha Ekata, or what Kalidasa said as nitya Shabdartha Sambandhaha, which is told as Vagarthaviva Sampraktau Vagartha Pratipattaye. That is, the words that are used in Vedic Sanskrit and as well as most of the words used in the transactional Sanskrit, they come from a much deeper yogic state. So there is a relation, there is an inherent relation between the words and the objects that are signified by these words. For example, Hamsa. Let us take the word Hamsa, which is easier to understand. Other words are more difficult and they are more experiential to understand. So the word Hamsa refers to Jiva, a Jivatma. So why Hamsa should refer to a Jivatma? Why it is not Swan? It's of course Swan, but at a much adhyatmic level or spiritual level, whenever we take our breath and leave the breath, there is a yogic Upanishad which says, Hakarena Bahiryati Sakarena Vishetpanaha. So whenever we exhale, It is like hum. You can see that sound. If you are not able to visualize that sound, you can probably run for 100 meters or 200 meters and see. I mean, just close your mouth and see what is the sound. Okay, it will be hum so, hum so, hum so, right? And that is the inverted part of it is soham. So you see that there is a more than any technical explanation. There is a more yogic explanation to at least the word hamsa. Similarly, there has been a lot of literature, at least in the tantras and agamas and many other scriptures here and there scattered, which give a hint about this hidden relation of shabda and artha. Okay, so this makes Sanskrit the most divine language. I'm not saying that this relation is not there in any other language. It is there, but it is not as strong as in Sanskrit. So this is one of the reasons why we have to consider stotras or Veda mantras which are in Sanskrit language, or it need not be in Sanskrit language, but it can be an outburst of bliss from a yogis or jñānis or bhaktas, a great bhaktas mouth. So then, even if it is not in Sanskrit, it has a yogic power or a mantric power. And this makes the stotra more powerful, that is, compared to our own words. And so we need to take refuge of these stotras for our own spiritual upliftment. Now, when we take stotras, generally, you have certain descriptions. So there is a flow of description. Some description about a devata. It could be probably regarding his ornaments, his physical appearance, so on and so forth. And at the end, most of the times, whenever you see the stotras written by these jñānis, there is a phalashruti. Phalashruti says what are the outcomes of chanting this stotra. So again, we see that in certain stotras of Shankarāchārya, these are again written. For example, by default, you can see that Kanakadhara Stotram is written for getting more wealth. So, so there are many stotras. So if you consider stotras like Saundarya Lahari, even though according to the meaning of the verses in Saundarya Lahari, there is a lot of yoga and tantra related to understanding this Saundarya Lahari. But even if one does not know the meaning, okay, the deeper meaning, but he completely surrenders himself to God, that is one part. Second, he puts all his mind. So there is a mindful chanting of that particular stotra, probably at least for a mandala. So mandala is a period of time, maybe somewhere between 40 to 60. So some people say, or some traditions say it is 48, some say it is 40, and some say it is 64, so on and so forth. But roughly, a period of nearly 2 months is required for that stotra. If you keep on chanting it regularly, it will bring in a certain sort of change in your physic as well as mind. So this is the significance of mandala. So couple of things that we need to remember again is, even though we don't understand the meaning, we have to go by the proper pronunciation of the stotras. Okay, so there have been some stories where people mispronounce the stotras, certain words in the stotras, and they get a wrong result. Okay, so there have been many instances. For example, if you take the Lalita Sahasranama Stotram, there is a Vandya. Vandya is someone to whom you can bow down. Okay, but by mistake, if someone repeats it as Vandhya, so there is a Mahaprana, a more aspirated the. So if you say it as Vandhya, okay, Vandhya means infertile mother. I mean, so first of all, she cannot be a mother, right? So when people have done this chanting of this to get children, they have not got children. Okay, So there are many such instances. So very important is the pronunciation. So if you carefully look at whatever I'm trying to talk about, it is also related to Japa Yoga. Okay? So coming to Nama Japa, that is simple Nama. You don't have tantric mantras, okay, like Namah Shivaya. It could be just Shiva, Rama, anything, simple namas. So while you do chanting of these names, there can be a mistake in the pronunciation. That is taken care if the mental image is proper. So let us say, and there have been many anecdotes. So let us say I want to chant Rama. Okay, I have a lot of devotion, and probably I'm not able to pronounce Rama as Rama. Probably I would say Lama. Even though I keep on repeating Lama, 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 but with the mental image of Rama, right? Then there is no problem. Okay. But when it comes to stotras, it is better that the pronunciation has to be proper. This is because you can see, I mean, if you chant certain letters for a longer duration of time, maybe probably for 5-6 minutes or even 10 minutes, you can try this experiment. If you chant Ra, especially, which is, I will not say what it is, it represents certain bhuta, okay, Panchamahabhuta. Out of Panchamahabhuta, you keep on chanting Ra, 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 not with the open lips, but even mentally, you will see that the heat in your body increases. Or probably you might feel the uh, red color in your visions. Okay, so this is the reason why the aksharas are very important. The pronunciation is very important. Okay, so with these, as a sort of routine for us, today we have there is no second way or second thought but to practice stotras and at least namajapa. All of you know what are the threats that have been faced by our community. I mean, any community which is loving peace. So you have external threats in terms of jihadis or jihadi mentality people, and internal threats is our own ignorance in the light of so-called scientific and technological development. I'm not blaming technological development or science, but most of us, when we go through the formal education in science and technology, we think that all these things are having no value, right? And we have forgotten a lot of our culture and traditions. And also, lot of secret practices that have been there for thousands of years. So earlier, just to give you an idea of what these practices were, more or less every village had at least one person who was good at mantra yoga. So people used to have fever. Sometimes they would get a snake bite, and people used to cure that just by using mantras. Okay, either it could be giving sacred ash with the abhimantrana or using mantra, or giving water either through prokshana or prashana. Prashana is taking in, prokshana is just sprinkling. After doing the japa of the mantra with a physical contact with the water. So these were the practices, and we have lost that primarily due to two reasons. One is because practicing that requires lot of mental purity, which were lacking because of the due to the exposure with a lot of social media and unwanted material on these platforms. And second is our own laziness and probably lack of devotion, strong devotion. So if you come back to Shankarāchārya'S stotras in Sādhana Pañcakam, he says, Vedo nityam adhiyatam taduritam karma svanashtiyatam. Sadhana Panchaka, if you see at a very superficial level, is talking about how Virakta or a dispassionate person should conduct his sadhana. But what is hidden is that these instructions that are given in Sādhana Pañcakam also are helpful to a householder, okay, even to common people like us. So there, somewhere uh, you see this phrase, okay, bhaktir dridha dhiyatam. Okay, so he starts with vedo nityam adhiyatam taduritam karma svanushthiyatam. So he says you have to study Vedas. Again, the word study is a mismatch for, I mean, it's not a proper translation for the word adhyana. Vedo nityam adhiyatam taduritam karma svanushthiyatam. Once you do the adhyana, I mean, start the rituals properly. Taduritam karma svanushthiyatam. The word svanushthiyatam is su and anushthiyatam. Su is properly. And then you have a lot of other injunctions. And then you have bhaktir dridhadhiyatam. So, lot of us, when we talk of devotion, probably we feel that we are devoted because just we light some lamp, we go to some spiritual centers like Kashi, Gaya, whatever, so on and so forth, or we probably study some spiritual books. So that is the way we understand that or have a confidence that we are great devotees of God. But if you go back to Sādhana Pañcakam, he tells lot of other things and then he says Bhaktir Dridha Dhiyata. So that is, make your bhakti more and more firm. Okay. So this is like an eye opener. Okay. So it says that it is not so easy. Bhakti is not so easy. Another way of proving that is our own behavior. If we see today, most of our life is only for ourselves. We don't do anything like a charity or the way we used to live 100 years back, right? So these stotras are also sort of giving you some sort of awareness. They are reminding you what you should do. So Shankarāchārya has written many such stotras where he tries to remind you, he orders you, especially he is ordering you in Sādhana Pañcakam. Once one of my Vyakarana gurus used to tell me, anyway, we are not Viraktas, we have polluted minds. So why should we follow or read all this Vedanta? So that was the question. So he said, even though we don't become sannyasis or probably we don't want to follow it completely, we need to get a picture. We need to get a bigger picture of what we are trying to do, and what are the consequences. At least for that, you need to read Vedanta. So, Sādhana Pañcakam is important even for us because it tries to give a bigger picture of the entire journey, starting from a person who is not a great yogic giant, who starts with learning Vedas until realizing the ultimate Brahman. So this entire journey is captured, and the different milestones in this journey are a sort of reminder to how we should conduct ourselves in our everyday life. So, going one level of depth into the stotra literature, what are the tools that we need to understand this literature at a much deeper level? Why we need to understand it at a much deeper level? Only chanting should be enough, right? So, even in the commentaries of Veda and as well as great saints, they have stressed the importance of understanding the artha or meaning and then chanting that particular shloka or stotra or mantra. This can again be seen through experiment. You can simply mindlessly keep on uttering ram, 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 looking at maybe TV or any other material, and probably after a certain uh, duration, maybe 5 minutes, you can see what is the effect, and probably you do it mindfully. Okay, so you will see the difference. So doing it mindfully, understanding the meaning, is said to give probably tenfold more efficacy or more fruits. So that is what is talked about in Tantra. So even when we do Nama Japa, right? So we have three levels of doing Japa. That is vācika, which is where we utter the sound and which is also audible to others. Not too loud, but at least audible to a nearby person. That is vācika Japa. And then the upānshu Japa is where we just probably utter to an extent where we only are able to hear that sound. It could be with the closed lips or maybe a little bit of movement in the lips. So that is Upamshu Japa. And the third and the Uttama Japa, the best of the Japas is Manasa Japa, where there is no motion of tongue and lips. Now let us understand the science behind this. Try to think of anything in terms of words. You might think that, okay, Chinmay is boring mentally, right? Just try to observe when you are trying to think about it. Is there, just close your mouth and try to observe, is there a motion in the tip of your tongue? You will see that there is no motion if you are trying to think something naturally. Okay. Now let us say I am asking you to utter some abracadabra words, okay, some judo words. I am giving you that as the japa, right? So when I give you this as a prescription to japa, and I want you to utter it, okay? And I will give a superficial meaning to every such judo words. Probably you cannot think of it naturally. So you will see that when the meanings are not natural, they are not in your brain or your experience, you will see that there is a little bit motion at the tip of the tongue, which says that it is not natural to you. And the great jñānis and yogis have said that whenever we chant stotras or namajapa, it should be as if though we are talking to the deity. Really. Okay? It is not like we are just hallucinating or having some sort of complex in our mind and we are just talking to someone. Right? So you see that whenever you try to utter, maybe Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, try to do it, okay, without meaning, you will see that there is a little bit of motion at the tip of the tongue, okay, or even the lips. So if it has to be natural, it has to be such that the meaning is understood. When the meaning is internalized, you will see that naturally the motion in the tip of the tongues will reduce and finally it will completely vanish. So this is another reason why Manasa Japa is said to be of the best type of Japa, right? Because it is very natural. Now, the stotras have to be chanted in the same way with the understanding of the meaning of every other word. Okay, it is not that once I understand the word, it is done, or once I understand the meaning, it is done. I'll simply keep on murmuring or blabbering it mechanically. So this is the way it has to be done if you want to get the best out of stotras. Now coming back to the tools required to understand and interpret, we have to understand it to get the best of the best results. Now, and one more thing before I get into this, there have been a lot of experiences where people have some sort of physical ailments. It could be starting from having no kids to maybe having some cancer, and even without knowing the meaning, they have got a lot of results. And especially the Tantra Shastra says that you have to do this japa or repeat this stotra for certain days, and every day you have to do maybe thousands of repetitions, which is highly impossible today with the current lifestyle which we see every day. Even then, they are seen to be efficacious and effective. So, what if we do with meaning? And I have some personal experiences. Probably I will not tell it so that you don't have any prejudice and you can try it out. Coming to what all things you need to understand the meaning of the stotra. Since these stotras are written by jñānis, you need to know how jñānis think about deities and what are the specialities of their understanding. In fact, one of the Vedangas or the limbs of the Veda, known as Nirukta, it talks about three layers of meaning of Veda mantras. So, certain Veda mantras, which are said to be forming a part called as Samhita, are said to have three layers of meaning. One is Adhyajna, which correspond to the ritualistic understanding. So, it's a ritualistic meaning. Okay? Then there is Adhyatmika. So, the devatas or deities are nothing but different faculties and energies working within the body and also outside the body. So, there is a meaning corresponding to those faculties and energies spread all over the universe. So, that is when it pertains to something within us, which is known as Adhyatmika Artha, and it is related to certain powers per se, they are known as Adhidevika Artha. So, there are three layers of meaning. And since stotra is a continuation of these things, these mantras, it is very natural that when a jnani writes or composes this shloka, these three layers should somehow come into picture. So let us see some examples, some glimpses. In fact, not only Veda mantras, every other object or concept that we see has at least three different perspectives from the perspective of Indian knowledge systems. One is Adhibhuta, which is physical. So when I show you a flower, you will physically perceive it through your senses. So that is one meaning or one realm of existence. Then there is an Adhyatmika Artha, an Adhyatmic understanding of that object. This is very important when it comes to shlokas because there are different descriptions with different colors. And if you know, there has been a therapy called as color therapy, which is there in West, and it has been taken from our Indian Shastras, especially these stotras and tantra, right? So when you see the flower, the color of the flower, it probably gives a certain, it evokes certain emotions. You might not be able to articulate it using words, but for sure there is certain emotion evoked by every other color and every other object. So that is Adhyatmika, and Adhidevika is pertaining to the different deities which are controlling the flower. Okay, the existence of the flower, probably the birth of the flower, so on and so forth. So it is through these natural powers that we are able to perceive that flower. Okay? And it is also responsible for the existence of the flower and the different changes in the flower. So even an object, a physical object, has these three layers. So let us see some examples. So in one of the stotras of Shankarāchārya, that is Ganga-āśṭaka. Again, before I get into this, even the number of verses in every shloka, they have certain significance. So I said Ganga Ashtaka, right? So Ashtaka itself says that there are 8 verses. Of course, if you carefully count it, you might get 9 or 10, depending upon different versions of the Ganga Ashtaka. But the 9th one will be more or less the Phalashruti, right? Apart from that, if you count, you will get 8. Now, why? I mean, is there a significance for 8 coming in Ganga? So, if you see out of the Trimurtis, the Murti or the god which is more related to Ganga in terms of physical contact, it is Shiva. And Shiva in Tantra and Puranic literature, he is called as Ashtamurti. So, whenever you do a puja or tarpana of Shiva, you have 8 murtis. You will say Bhavan Devan Tarpayami, Sharvan Devan Tarpayami, so on and so forth. Whenever you do a Rudrabhishekam with Laghunyasa. Okay. And even Kalidasa, when he describes Shiva in his opening verse of the Shakuntalam, he talks about 8 murtis or 8 visible objects which are representing Shiva. So you see that this association is carried on to till Ganga also. Of course, you can also check this with other shlokas. For example, Kala Bhairava Ashtakam, which is again Shankarāchārya's work itself. So there also you see Ashtakam, because Kala Bhairava is a form of Shiva. Okay. So you see that even the number of verses has certain meaning to be conveyed. So you can think of Mahaganesha Pancharatnam. Okay. So Ganesha is the lord of Prithvi. So in the evolution of the Mahabhutas, you start from Akasha, Dvayuhu, so on and so forth, and end up in Prithvi. And Ganesha is the lord of Prithvi, and especially the Mooladhara Chakra, which signifies Prithvi. And that consists of all the 5 Tanmatras, and that is why you have Pancharatnam. Okay, and you have 5 faces of the Lord corresponding to 5 bhutas, the 5-fold manifestation of the Avyakta in terms of perceivable objects or Tanmatras. We perceive Mahabhutas, we don't perceive Tanmatras, but Tanmatras are the basis of Mahabhutas. Okay, so the number is also very significant. Next, the meter or the count of letters is also very significant. Okay, I'll not get into that because it will take more time. So coming back to this spiritual or adhyatmika or adhidevika artha, let us quickly go back to Gangashtakam. So there you see maybe the first verse would be Bhagavati Tavatire Niramatrashanoham, so on and so forth. It starts. After few verses, you will see Brahmandam Khandayanti Harashirasi Jata Vallimullasayanti. So if you try to make some sense, physical sense of this phrase, Brahmandam Khandayanti. So it is saying that the Ganga is piercing through Brahmanda, but you don't see Ganga piercing through Brahmanda, right? So what is this phrase trying to tell you? This is where you need to understand the hidden adhyaptika meaning. Okay, so Ganga actually personifies knowledge. I'll also talk about this when I take up Kashi Pañcakam in a while. So Brahmandam Khandayanti. Brahmanda is the entire universe. For a person who is studying Vedanta and trying to imbibe it in oneself, you see that he has to do the analysis of the visible world, the perceivable world, and as well as himself. So the Brahmanda is the Tat, okay? And this is Tvam, right? So he has to understand that Brahmanda itself is Brahman, okay, in its ultimate reality. So when he has to do that, first he will not start with the understanding that, okay, the entire thing is Brahmanda because our Acharya Shankarāchārya has told that. Okay, he has to do the basic exercises. That is where he has to pierce the Brahmanda into different objects or classes and analyze them and do all the things that are required, starting from Atma and Atma Viveka. Okay, the 4-fold exercise that he has to be well versed with to even start with Vedanta, right? So that is where Khandayanti is given. So whenever we do a debate, traditionally we use this word Khandana. So मैंने उसका खंडन किया, उसका वाद का खंडन किया. So I have done the khandana of his side, right? Which khandana is basically piecing things. I mean, piercing things and showing that, see, there is a misconception in this part. So whenever we do vada within ourselves or do the Atman Atma Viveka, we will try to see whether this is Brahman, that is Brahman, so on and so forth. What is this? And that is why we also have the Panchabhuta and the Avasthatraya Viveka and many other things, including Pancha Kosha Viveka. So it is trying to pierce these different visible objects and try to come to a feeling that, so whenever as a sadhaka I look into the universe, I should be in a position to somehow at least feel somewhere at the nook of my experience, nook and corner of my experience, I should somewhere feel that, okay, this looks like there is some Brahman, I mean, which is piercing through all the objects in this universe. So I should get that feel. To do that, to get that feel, I have to do this. So I have to do the Khandana of the Brahmanda and try to analyze it at a different level that is given in Upanishads. So, and to do that, I need knowledge. And Ganga is actually personifying or personified form of that knowledge. And that is why it is said that it is on the head of Shiva, Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, if you see our Tantra Shastra literature, we say that Jnanam Maheshwaradichet. So there are different things that you have to get from different deities at a lower level. So you see that Jnanam Maheshwaradichet. You have to go to Maheshwara to get Jnana. Okay, and this Ganga Pravaha is actually describing the flow of knowledge. And you see, if you go back to Kashi Panchakam now, so there you see that we have the last word, last verse, Kashi Kshetram Shariram. Okay, what is Kashi Kshetra really? It is this entire Sharira. Again, this is the Adhyatmic meaning, which is very much vividly described by Shankarāchārya. Okay, this is one of the best things of at least reading and understanding stotras, that the hidden meanings of different Puranic stories and concepts will be much clear as to what they are, right? So, Kashi Kshetram Shariram, Tribhuvana Janani Vyapini Jnana Ganga. Okay. So, there you see that Jnana Ganga. It is the pravaha or the flow of knowledge. Okay. So, you see that by going back and forth through Gangashtaka and as well as Kashi Panchaka, you can see what is really Kashi. So, again, going back to the Tantric literature, another name of Kashi is Varanasi, and the yoga literature, the Tantra literature says that you will really understand the Almighty within yourself, including through the path of Vedanta. Whenever you try to realize the different centers of pilgrimage within your body. So, where does Varanasi come? Varanasi comes here. Okay, so this is Vara and this is Nasi. You remember that this is Nasika, right, in Sanskrit. So there is a joint of this as well as this. So that is this Bhrumadhya, that is where Ajna Chakra is. So that is actually the Kashi Kshetra. Okay, Kurukshetra is here in your chest. So there is a lot of war happening within your with all your feelings as to should I follow the right path or wrong path, right? So these are the different Adhyatmika arthas of terms like Kashi, Ganga. So these stotras also throw light upon these different aspects also. So Swamiji, may I know how much time I have?
Yeah, you may take another 10 minutes.
Sure.
Then please provide some 10 minutes for question and answer if there are questions.
Sure. So, again going back to Ganga Panchaka once more, we have Sheshahe Ranukarani. So, Sheshahe Ranukarani is a description of Ganga again. So, Sheshahi means, you know, the serpent, the Puranic serpent known as Adi Shesha. So, again, the words have the hidden meaning of what Shesha is. So, Shesha is another description, Puranic description is the entire world is resting on the prana or the fangs of Shesha, on the head of Shesha, right? So it is actually, I mean, physically we don't see that, right? But in reality, in a more deeper reality, the Shakti, the Maya Shakti, okay, of Brahman, once, I mean, that is remaining after all the creation is done, okay, and because of which that is where the Shesha comes. Okay, Shesha is reminder. Okay, so the remaining Shakti, which actually holds the entire world, is known as Adishesha. Okay, so Shesha He Anukarini. What is Anukarana? Anukarana is just trying to imitate or mimic some other thing. So again, coming back to Vedanta or Vedantic practice, whenever we have to understand the highest Brahman, we start with lower realms or lower levels. And even in Bhagavad Gita, it is said that Jnanam Vijnana Sahitam. Jnanam Teham Savijnanam. There is one verse there like that. Okay. So Vijnana is the Vikasita Jnana or Vishesha Jnana, which is the Jnana pertaining to all these worldly aspects, including Adhyatmika, Adidevika, and Adhibhautika aspects. Okay, all the three layers of meaning. So it has to be experienced. So Sheshahe Ranukarani is the description given to Ganga, which means that the supreme jnana of the Brahman has also trickled down into the entire existence, our own existence within and outside as well. So you see that the Kundali is also in the Sarpakara, the Kundalini Shakti, which is talked about in yoga, is also in Sarpakara. And probably another description given to Ganga is Harashiro Valli Dalakarani. There is a spiral. Valli is a creeper, and you see that the creeper always goes in a spiral shape. And you see that that also has a semblance to the pictorial depiction. Okay, it's not the reality, but it's a pictorial depiction of Kundalini Shakti. What he tries to say is probably going back to Subrahmaṇya Bhujangam. So somewhere in between Subrahmaṇya Bhujangam, you see that, or even without Subrahmaṇya Bhujangam, you can see that the Ayudha, okay, of Kumaraswamy or Kartikeya or Skanda is Shaktiyayudha. Okay, so there is a story. It could be in few Puranas that there was a competition between Ganesha and Kartikeya. So the competition is who will go around the world and come back to Kailasa quickly. Okay, and this Kartikeya went through. He used his Mayura Vahana, the peacock, and traveled the entire world and came back. But on the other hand, Ganesha did the circumambulation or the pradakshina of Shiva and Parvati. So what is this trying to signify? This is trying to signify that it is not trying to show that Ganesha is superior or Kartikeya is superior. It is trying to show that Ganesha as a son, when you talk of deities, they don't have physical relationships, and it is just a pictorial depiction or probably a Puranic depiction, which is trying to stress upon certain deeper aspects in terms of energies. So Ganesha, if you have to reach the ultimate jnana, which is signified by Maheshwara, okay, you will get lot of obstacles. And to win over obstacles, we need a Shakti, which is symbolized by Ganesha. Similarly, there is another way of winning over these obstacles, that is using power or exerting power. So that exertion of power is, which is nothing but Shakti, is the realm of Kartikeya. So he uses power, and you see that the Shakti is also signified by Mayura, and you also see a peacock feather in Krishna's. So that also talks about Maya Shakti, because you can see the three mandalas. According to yogic literature, there is a Surya Mandala, there is a Soma Mandala, and there is a Vanhi Mandala within our body and in the Adhyatmic realms. So that is, those colors are signified in the circle of the peacock feather, right? So you see that Sheshahe Ranukarani, Harashiro Valli Dalakarani, and taking all these ideas together, they give an interpretation of what is the energy of Kartikeya. He gives quick results. Okay. So in trying to wind up my talk, you see that there are a lot of things that you need to understand to really understand the finer aspects of the stotras. So you need to understand Puranas. Reading Puranas is very important. Going through the yoga literature is also important. When I say yoga literature, it is not just Yoga Sutras, there are Yoga Upanishads as well. And practicing is very important. So one other personality that you might be seeing nowadays on YouTube is Rajarshi Nandi, who is putting a lot of effort to revive this practice of doing nama japa and upāsanā in general. Again, I'll not get into the depths of upāsanā. So this is very, this is the need of the hour, because by no means with all our physical might and probably all our brain, whatever we can do with within our reach, we cannot win over the dushta shaktis or the destructing powers within us as well as outside. I mean, it is within our community and outside our community, peace-loving community. So this is the only way, because this was the exact way that great Rajas of past, including Chhatrapati Shivaji, they have got this grace, the grace of stotra, chanting, namajapa, and all these things to win over these destructive powers. And this is the need of the hour. That's what I would like to say and conclude this lecture. Probably there is a lot of things to dig deeper, but I'll stop at this point. Krishnarpanastu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chandramouli. Swami, you would like to speak few words again?
Certainly, though this is the time when all the participants have a chance to ask questions or make comments or anything else. On my part, I would say that the content was very good. A lot of things were covered. Probably portions of the presentation may be taken up in another webinar for elaboration. Many mystical things of tantric traditions, and also emphasis on being sincere, reciting stotras from our heart. So a lot of things came into the scene. We truly appreciate it. And at this point, I will request other participants to either turn their mic on and speak, or write it on the chat box too.
There is one question on chat box already there from the YouTube. Swayambhuman. Are there any commentaries on these stotras?
Okay.
All-
Some of the stotras, well-known stotras like Saundarya Lahari, there have been many commentaries. But coming to some stotras, which even the Sanskrit scholars, including those who have a good knowledge of Vedanta, they also consider them to be difficult in understanding, is some stotras like Viṣṇu Padādi-Keśānta and Shiva Padādi-Keśānta. There are very few commentaries. Most of them are not available online. So I have to thank one of my gurus who comes from Vishishtadvaita philosophy, and because of his teachings on yoga and Advaita and even Tantra and Vedanta, I'm able to deliver this talk. It's all because of him. There is nothing much from my side. So for few stotras, there have been commentaries, but not for all stotras. That is why we need to go back to our Puranas, and sometimes, as I did in the talk itself, we need to take lessons from different stotras. Like I took Kashi Pañcakam and Gangashtakam to understand, synergistically understand the different stotras. That is the way out. Hope I addressed the question.
Person is on YouTube, so we cannot get the response from him. But I'll see if he has written on the box there.
Yeah, any other?
Yeah, this evening, I think a good number are attending using the Zoom link we had sent to them. But another number of people are seeing it, or they watched it on YouTube for my channel. So if they want to send a question, have to write it in the chat box. So we don't know. Unless it shows up, we would know. Can you say one or two things about Rajarshi Nandi? I have watched some minutes of his videos when he was interviewed by this in Mumbai, Ranveer Singh. Ranveer Singh Allahabadi. He has got some very, very interesting interviews. He interviews a wide range of people. So once or twice I watched, not fully, partly, Rajarshi Nandi. But what's your perception of Rajarshi Nandi? Is his contribution more in rituals or tantra?
Yeah, Rajarshi Nandi is more of a tantric person.
Hmm.
So he does a lot of upāsanā related to, he has a foundation related to Bhairava and Kamakhya. So there
Oh.
has been a recent case on construction somewhere in the that place, Kamakhya, which is actually damaging the deities there.
Energy field.
Yeah. So so he has, I think from the past 20 years, he has been doing upāsanā and he's a lateral entry. He didn't have a very good family background to get into this. And probably it is, this is one good sign of all of us when he can do it, and experience certain things, that too with some amount of nishkama bhava. Why can't we do it? Who have some good traditions, we have to take it up. So it's a genuine person. There is no doubt about it. But only thing is, after his podcast, there have been a lot of fake people coming up on YouTube. That is the bad part. Yeah, black magic is real. Yes, to some extent. Yes.
Anyone from among those from California and other? See, the speaker today has your California's background as the virtual background. So you should respond. There are some
Very
from San
informative.
Francisco Bay Area who I know they are attending.
It is very informative and very useful and mind opening in different areas. Thank you very much, Chinmayananda, for doing it. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's the couple from Palo Alto, not far from Stanford University. They run a school in Coimbatore. They keep coming to India, Krishnan and Geeta. They have appreciated the content of this webinar as I did.
There's one more question from Mr. Ashok Kulkarni. It's undoubtedly a wonderful. No, it's not a question.
Comment.
Comment, yeah. It's not a question. It's undoubtedly a wonderful talk with good coverage of Adi Shankarāchārya. I like some new words like divine masala.
Yes, Ashok Kulkarni, Ashwini Kulkarni are from Dharwad and Gadag, though they are settled in Goa. Sometime they will know you, you will know them more. I'm sure they are happy someone from Dharwad is speaking this evening. All right. So all of us are truly appreciative, Dr. Chinmayanand, and hope our association will continue in some way.
Sure.
Hope we shall meet face to face also sometime somewhere.
Sure.
Thank you very much. And we thank Indica Academy, Indica Forum for bringing you to our knowledge through the programs. You spoke at the Festival of Oneness, was it there?
Yes.
Festival of Oneness for a whole month, morning and evening. Indica Moksha organizes lectures around the time of Adi Shankara's birthday every year. So, yeah, many speakers are brought to light. People come to know there are these speakers, these scholars, and so on. Wonderful. Would you like to say anything before closing?
That's it. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Good night. Hari Om. Namaste.